Hi, I'm Dan Schultz. I am a 2012 Knight Mozilla Fellow based at the Boston Globe. And this talk is about my job, but more generally, it's advice for anyone who's trying to be innovative in a newsroom. And just to give you a heads up, I had no idea what I was getting into when I started this fellowship. All I knew was that Knight Mozilla Open News is about building an ecosystem to help journalism thrive on the open web. And I guessed I would have to figure out what that meant for newspapers. I did know a couple things. I knew I wasn't alone. There were other initiatives, hackathons, code sprints, and more importantly, other news fellows based at the Guardian, Zeit, the BBC, and Al Jazeera. We also had awesome hosts with great plans for us. So at the Globe, I was going to start off as a developer in the developer cave, move over to being a newsroom developer, working with journalists, and wind up in the Skunk Works. So sort of getting a tour of technology at the Globe. It was going to be just like Star Wars. We were the Jedi. Dan Sinker was our glorious bearded Yoda. We were going to save the universe by getting these 5 organizations to work together in the public, innovating, creating open-sourced code. Everything was going to be, oh, wait. So that's not how the real world works. In the real world, newspapers aren't sitting around waiting for an open source tool to solve all their problems. They're not waiting for some schmuck to come in and tell them this is how you should be doing things. They have plans and they have problems. They also have a lot of hurdles that they need to jump, constraints. And some of these make sense, some of them are necessary, but a lot of them are from a truly outdated way of thinking about technology. Newspapers used to think of technology as nothing but a support system. Developers weren't artists, they weren't craftsmen, they were the people carving out the marble for the journalists to turn into something beautiful. But they've taken this leap. Unfortunately, it's a culture issue. It's not an issue that can be solved by code. And so I've decided that the most effective way to help is to cause some trouble. So the first thing that I do is I make sure to ask questions anytime I see something that really makes no sense or feels outdated to me. Is this an idea that is actually been tested by a user, or is it coming out of your head? Should we make it from scratch? Really? But you need to be diplomatic. So this accomplishes 2 things. First, it challenges, right? It gets them to think through and explain, okay, this actually is making sense. But also you better understand where they're coming from and the history of why things are the way they are. As you develop that understanding, you need to broadcast it. You are useless alone. You're not going to solve anything. So you need to get people to understand, but you also need to recognize that you don't know what you're talking about and that other people do, and so they can help you out. So talking in group communication channels, IRC, Twitter, lunchrooms, actually talking face-to-face, you're going to get to know what other people around you believe and leverage these third-party experiences as you're trying to come up with solutions. You also need to recognize that the convenient contacts are not the only contacts. You need to talk to CTOs. You need to talk to DBAs. I don't know which one you're going to be more scared of talking to, but you need to go all around the food chain, both in terms of technology and in terms of corporate power. It will take some confidence and a level of no fear, but remember you're trying to stir the pot. These people will often appreciate the chance to answer a tough question or to think about something differently, and plus you're harmless, right? Until you start creating things, and that's when you actually get some teeth. So this last step is the most important. The second you start building things in a non-traditional way or proposing solutions, you're moving away from being an observer and into being a molder. So this might label you as a giant pain in the ass. It also might energize the people around you. So this was built on a somewhat controversial tool I made called Open Captions by a colleague, and it augments C-SPAN in real time. So the general lessons is that as an effective troublemaker, you're playing 2 roles. First, you have to be edgy. That's where the trouble comes in. But second, you need to be effective. And so to be effective, you need to be relatable and you need to be diplomatic. And these are 2 often conflicting roles. So my fellowship has really been about finding this balance between challenging the institution and working with the institution. The newspapers made the leap, and now it's up to the troublemakers to make sure they land on their feet.